Welcome to the Fail Forward podcast. The purpose of this podcast is change the negative stigma around failure into a positive. Failure is only a negative if we do not learn from it and we give up. Welcome back to the Fail Forward podcast. Today I've got the amazing Keeley Taverner on the show. Today we're going to be talking all things around what Keeley does, how she can help people. So Keeley, tell me what you currently do, and then a little bit of your backstory about how you got there.
So I help people who are trying to deal and heal with narcissistic individuals. They come to me once they've realised they're in a situation, they've either found me on socials, and then we start to look at the dynamics in terms of what's going on and how best to move forward. I'm a psychotherapist, so I'm trained in dealing with, the unconscious, which often is the real root of the problem, which often has links back to our childhood, so that it makes sense to people why they understand all this knowledge because they've been Googling, reading about it, yet their behaviour is often concerning for them, being that they go back or they stay or they hope that someone will change.
Sure. Okay. And firstly, that's amazingly empowering to be able to help people do that, which is absolutely amazing. I absolutely love people that help and serve. But tell me, how did you get to this point? Like, what were you doing before, and how did you get to the point where you thought, I really need to go and help people who are suffering from narcissistic relationships?
Well, it was my own situation. So I was involved with an incredibly selfish man, baffled why I kept going back. We had 2 children together. And then that tragedy took me to self-help reading. So I read my first self-help book, left school with no qualifications, was quite happy to get pregnant and continue to work at the local IKEA. And that first self-help reading, as I began, because everybody judged me, everyone was like, we could see he was a wrong un. So I found it really difficult. I didn't know where to go, but self-help books was my saving grace. And the first self-help book I read was In the Meantime by Jan Levansan. I'd seen her on Oprah. And then I read another of her books and another one of her books. And then one book was talking about going back to college to get an education. And I was just moved by it. And that's when I decided to go back to college. I did an access to psychology course and then went on to do my degree in psychology. Ended up having a work placement with it, ended up working in prisons in the area where I grew up. So, there was the whole good girl, bad girl mix. And it's very interesting when you work for probation and you're the girl from the estate, And then probation was quite a dead-end job. It was quite all-consuming, and I didn't really feel that we could help in a way that made a difference. I used to work on the offender behaviour program, sex offender program, thinking skills programs, anger management, but it just felt I felt there was a ceiling and I didn't quite fit. I didn't want to become a psychologist. They were a bit too wooden for me. I was a bit more eclectic in my thinking. So that's what inspired me to go back to do a master's in person-centered psychotherapy. And I trained at a renowned institute where I was around a lot of middle-class people. I'd come from a council estate in northwest London. And I think that really inspired me because it was just normal that you would qualify, get your own business. And so that rubbed off on me. And then when I qualified, that's exactly what I did.
Amazing. Love that. So how did it feel being in that environment when, like you say, the girl from the estate, and then now you're in this like middle-class environment? How did that feel?
I felt deeply inadequate because, I might be going to the chicken shop for lunch and everybody's, bringing in their organic foods and off to M&S and Waitrose. So but I was mentored as well. One of the people who I was training with, she was a judge and she just took me under her wing. I think every time I've leveled up, someone on the journey has kind of taken to me and warmed to me and just helped me to navigate spaces that I wasn't used to, wasn't comfortable with. Sometimes I was in all white groups, I'm mixed heritage, and I'm from a working class background. So I needed support and I needed guidance, especially because the friends who I'd grown up with, we were more or less kind of doing similar things. And I didn't want to just be a baby mama pushing me pram on the estate and waiting to be housed. I had a desire for more, and that isolated me at points on my journey. And so the mentors who well, I call them mentors, they just say they're my friends, but they really supported me the whole way through. And I'm internally grateful for them.
Yeah, absolutely love that, and I'm sure that is a lot to do with the person you are, because it instantly clicked when we met a few weeks ago, and I'm sure that's just down to the person you are. So through that time, did you have an end goal? What was your goal and vision when you were training? What, like, was it just? I know you said you don't want to just be the girl on the estate, waiting to be housed, but what was your overall goal and vision with it all?
I think when I did the access course, then I realised I could get to uni. I realised that was a vehicle to get to university. I applied to Brunel, but I didn't have maths GCSE, so they said I couldn't get in, which was the only uni I wanted to go to because it was local. I had 2 kids at the time. So I just wrote them a letter. I begged, said I'd get private tuition. They let me in. And I think my overall aim was to get through each semester. I'd left school with no no GCSEs. I didn't know how to spare there. There's a lot of theirs. There,
I feel
right?
that. I had no. I've got no GCSEs, and even now I'm still thinking when I have to write there.
Listen, I don't know. I come up from a semicolon or a full stop. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, my 7-year-old daughter knows more about English than I do already, so I feel that. I feel that, Keeley.
There
for sure.
you go. So I don't know. I don't know how I just chunked down. It was a 4-year degree, and I knew if I could just get from September to December, that was that. And then it just kept rolling. And my aspirations initially was just to I wanted to be a psychologist. It was the first time I've ever dreamed. I'd never had a vision for my life, but by taking small steps, it began to feel like I was getting momentum. Plus I took a degree with a placement, which is where I got my first job, volunteering at Wormwood Scrub. So that felt good. My biggest fear was when I graduated, would I get a job? And people were like, oh, people don't get a job. But that wasn't going to be my story. So I got a job as a drug and alcohol worker, and then got pulled in. Actually, my Lara Jonah, psychologist at the prison, felt that I'd be good for probation doing the program. So I managed to get through that way. And then I kind of always felt like once I got a probation job, I'd settle. And then you realise you get there and you're like, this is quite disappointing. Or they'd threaten us with redundancy, and you're like, you want to make us redundant, but this place is full. Like, there's prisoners coming in all the time. So I just didn't like being disempowered. And I think once I started to train as a psychotherapist, I was around different types of people it wasn't a thing. Like, that low expectation wasn't a thing. And that rubbed off on me, and that's how I developed Key for Change.
Yeah, absolutely love that. And I can see a theme here already, that you've just got some really big drive and determination. Like, you're a determined human being. Like, to say, oh, they said no because I've got maths GCSE, most people would just go, oh, I can't go there then. But like, to send a letter and go, look, like, I need to be in on this, like, amazing. And then you can see through each step already, we're only 8 minutes into this podcast, like, the drive and determination to push on is amazing. So, and I'm sure that drive and determination was there when you were in that relationship, but how difficult was it to get out of that relationship? How difficult was it to move on? And what were the key things that you needed to do to get out of it?
I think us ladies have to be honest. Sometimes we're digmatized. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we're digmatized. And you got to have a word with your lady flower, because you can't just let your lady flower rule you. You know what I'm saying, bro?
Yeah.
You got to keep her in check. Otherwise, it's just not good for your head. You know? So I think once the violence kicked in, I have a scar here from the last violent assault I was exposed to. And that actually happened the more I was distancing myself. I was educating myself. I was starting to move in circles. And one of the factors of domestic abuse is you actually can be more vulnerable when you begin to shift away. When they realize the power is gone, that's actually when you're quite vulnerable. And I think when you've got nothing to lose, it's the value of having nothing to lose. I'll ask. I have no shame in asking, because what's the worst they could tell me? Is no. What's waiting for me? Life on the estate, or sitting in temporary housing, waiting for them to house me. I've got friends who've just been housed. Their kids are now 20. You know, so I didn't have nothing to lose. And I think my mum's a Rasta. And so all of the good vibes music, the inspirational music, the spiritual music, it kind of meant within me, I had a hard drive of, yeah, life is sticky, but you got to try, have faith, keep pushing on. And like I said, around me, all these people just kept coming who pushed me and inspired me. And, you know, sometimes my own family weren't able to necessarily do that at times because they kind of had me stuck in a box, in a role, thought that, you know, well, you know, here she is in a mayhem relationships, 2 kids, working at IKEA. There wasn't much expectation of me, but actually being the underdog can be incredibly advantageous if you use it to your advantage. And now as a psychotherapist, you know, I've got clients who are like, oh God, it's just, I can relate to people. I say it as it is. And I think people are keen to be told exactly what, you know, there's space to give people to muse, but sometimes you just need to call it out and say it as it is.
Yeah, absolutely love that. And I love the underdog. I've been an underdog my whole life. And I love it. I've always sport the underdog, apart from I'm a Man United fan, but that's a different story. They're now the underdog. They're now the underdog. Anyway, to one side, like I love the underdog. And you're right, like when you've got nothing to lose, like there's only one way to go, right? And another thing I was just thinking of, because I just got off another podcast interview with someone, and they were talking about how influential we are between 0 and 7 and how important that is. And you mentioned about your mum being a Rasta and having all these good vibes music. Like, I love that was around you. Like, yes, talking about being on the estate and that environment might not have been great, but having that music, like, and I've never even, it's just clicked when you were talking then. Like, it's not just what we say to our children, it's also like what we do. And having that positive music around you is definitely, you can see that's giving you that good vibe and that positivity. I absolutely love that.
And when I'd feel like giving up, as I often did, some song would come into my head, you know, like, yes, you got to be strong, some Sizzler, something would come in my head, and I'm like, oh well, I've just got to keep trying. So I see failure as a part of success. And I think, and I say this to my clients all the time, anytime you level up, you've got to expect that challenges will happen. It's a part of the journey. It doesn't mean you turn away. It means, okay, this has happened. Now, what do I need to do? What do I need? How do I regroup?
Yeah. And there's challenges along every way, isn't there? Like whether you don't make the right decisions or you do, there's like every level you go. So what was your advice to people who are going through those challenges and how to push through them?
Firstly, I think you have to have wise counsel. You've got to have people around you who you can trust, who you can confer with. And if you can get over shame and embarrassment, if you've got trusted confidants, and sometimes you might need to pay for people, you know, like pay for professional support. When I finished my degree, I remember paying £30 to see somebody. She was an NLP coach to help me with confidence because I didn't think I'd get a job. It was the first time I ever took my money and paid someone. And that for me was a game changer, because it signaled to me that I was serious about my career. So I think you have to have trusted confidence. You've got to check your circle. You've got to check who's in your circle. Some people need not to be in your circle. You've got to check your readout list. I always tell people, go and look in your WhatsApps. Those first 10 people, those are the people you need to work. Are they good for me? You know, and there will be loss. There will be relationship casualties.
Yeah, I can see that. Like as you go through the different environments, and you know, like you can't pick your environment when you're younger, but you can when you're older. Like when you get into adult life, you're right. Like the people there's that saying, you are the sum of the 5 people you spend most time with, and that's so right, isn't it? Like
I think the biggest challenge though is the isolation on the journey. You kind of sometimes question it as relationships might fall apart, family might not be as supportive as you once hoped they were, because they have a kind of role that they expect you to perform in. And when you start to break out of that can be it can be uncomfortable. And I think that's one of the important reasons. It's a bit like, you know, the way I've met you is I need to meet other people who are business owners who want to support and help people. And I think having a community of people was essential to one of the reasons why I joined, and look at what's manifested from that.
Yeah, exactly that. And you're right, like your family want you to be, and it's not out of them not loving you or wanting the best for you. Generally, the reason why your family pull you back in is because they genuinely care about you and don't want you to step out and get hurt in the big wide world. But actually what happens is you get hurt in the big wide world whether you step in or step out of that anyway. So like there is so much loss from not doing and not taking action and not trying to move out of it. So yeah, you're exactly right there. And then what you said about failure is the key to success. That is so true. So tell me more about your thoughts around that.
Well, I think you have to learn that adversity can make you advantageous. And it may
Yes.
not feel like, and sometimes the odds are stacked against you. Like I'm in a very white middle class industry. And at times I felt hard done by. It's much harder for me to navigate those spaces, but with perseverance and endurance and taking calculated risks. One of the things I've done in the business is I took on leases rather than hiring rooms by the hour. I'll take on a lease. So that then also gave me an extra income. That income used to be more than I'd get for probation. So, if you've got that hustler's mindset, that's what I've been brought up around, and people weren't always doing that legally, but you can take from that and think, oh, well, how can I do that pro-socially? What? So I'm a therapist, but there's other aspects of the business, that can assist you and help you. But there is the perseverance, which isn't always easy. And yeah, I've had to work part-time, juggle, hustle, nip out of work, drive up to my office, come back when they thought I was on the wings, but I was seeing private clients. Like there's a book by Natalie Ola called Steal as Much as You Can. And that's about working class people who are aspirational, doing as much as they can in the working day on their time. Yeah, because some of those jobs, like they're relentless in terms of the things you have to keep going. Stop it, right? Make time to do the things to help you elevate, to help make sure that you begin to move in the direction of your dreams. Because for everybody who comes to see me, and people think really, and I promote this, that I specialize in narcissism, that's the hook. I'm really about your potential. Because once you get all that narcissism out the way and you realize how much energy you've put into trying to change someone else, that energy is available to yourself. What are your dreams? What are your aspirations? What abandoned dreams do you have from your childhood, or people told you couldn't do this and you couldn't do that, so you've settled? But this thing inside you still knocks at you. It won't leave you alone. That's what I'm really passionate about. But selling potential isn't so sexy. You know what I'm saying? But from the adversity of the adverse relationship, there is an opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely love that. Sell them what they want, give them what they need, right?
There you go. And every day I get messages, pictures, tags for people who've begun to reclaim their power. And that's why there's no need for revenge with narcissists. Do you, invest in you, excel in your own life, and that it takes care of itself. It just takes care of itself.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely love that. Absolutely love that because it's it must be. I couldn't ever imagine being in that situation, but it must be a really, really difficult situation when you're being put down on a regular basis, and then you can't live, like you can't feel like you can step out of that zone and go and live the dreams that you have, because everyone dreams, right? Everyone has aspirations to be more. It's just having the confidence to go out and do that. So rolling on to now, to where you are now and how you help people, obviously you have people moving towards you to get out of that narcissistic relationship, but then you then help them with their confidence. How do you go about doing that?
What's your dream? What do you enjoy? What do you like? And for some people, remember, narcissists often target people with fragile personalities. They've got a fragile sense of self. This is one of the ways they become enmeshed and lose themselves in the relationship. So the one of the tools I have, especially if someone doesn't have a sense of self, is I do a bucket list. I used to use these in prisons because prisoners often struggle to find things that they wanted to do. Like, all right, so let's just do a bucket list. A bucket list gives me a great insight into the activities that inspire someone. And so, the next thing is, well, what are you going to do about it? I've been working with a client recently. He's from the motherland, and every week he dresses in like it, to me it's safari colours, like safari outfit. And I said to him, you dress like you're ready for safari every week. And he's like, well, I'm a motherland man. And I said, so when was your last holiday? He can't remember. And I said, so you're dressed for adventure, but you don't have any adventures. Last week he brought in a new passport. Like, that to me is just, it's just because who knows what may unfurl from just one small comment that led to, and then has now led to him taking action. Like that for me it's just goosebump worthy. And every day I see these small changes just from some small comment I might make about something that doesn't seem so relevant to the therapy room, but is actually profoundly important. So just love what I do. Just love that. Yeah. And it's bespoke to everybody you meet, right? It's not generic. Every human's different. Every human's wired differently. Every human's carrying their own bag of adversity. So it's unique to every single person. Client said to me last week, there's nothing special about me. I just had to I was like, there's work to be done here.
There's work to be done here. Everyone's got something special. Everyone's got their own
and it's no wonder the narcissist has got hold of you if you believe that about yourself. It's never about them. It's always about you. By the time they've got hold of you, they've just ridden you like a pony. And it's time to take back your power. Yeah, absolutely love that. And do you see, because you work with people on the receiving end, do you see, narcissists, are they on their own journey? Is there any help for a narcissist? Are they, do you just see them going down the same sort of dead-end roads all the time? Or is that something you're ever involved in? Yeah, I get a few coming to me. It doesn't usually last too long because they don't usually like me after a while. Or if they come as a couple, usually they start to say the therapist is shit, which is fine. I think to the lady, I thought I warned you. Yeah, and that's usually we are encouraged not to pursue therapy with people who we overtly know are. But I have worked with definitely a few, and it's very tricky because you have to get good therapy is about getting beyond your defenses. And narcissists are particularly defended people, and that might be for very good reasons because they have their own traumas. I've worked with enough psychopaths, narcissists, sociopaths through prison. So mine isn't, I just read it or my daughter's dad's one. I've had to work professionally. So getting beyond the defense is very difficult. Usually if they sharpen therapy, there's an agenda. Miss is going to leave them or they're going to be an expensive divorce. And that fakeness, it shows up. So yeah, they're turning up because they're trying to play a game, aren't they, really, do you think? Or evidence mental health problems to try to get a letter for court. There's usually an agenda, and I'm pretty good. You can feel people out, so it doesn't. Not with me anyway. I'm probably not the best person because I say it as it is, isn't it? Yeah, exactly that, and love that. Yeah. So do you think, where does ego play into all of this? Because I know that certainly from my perspective, ego gets in the way a lot when I'm learning something new, for example. I have to try and leave my ego at the door to lean into learning, because if I sit there, my arms folded, and I'm just not going to learn. So where do you think ego plays into this, into the role of not just narcissist, but even trying to influence people and give people your content? Where do you think ego plays into all of this? Well, I think we all have an ego. So narcissists and empaths go together. So the clients I work with tend to be highly empathic people, generally. And so a lot of the victims of narcissists don't believe they have an ego. But if you're going above and beyond all the time, that's about your ego. If you can't let go of it. You're feeding it. Yeah, your ego can't let go. My thinking around ego is inspired by Dr. Wayne Dyer's Edge God Out, because I do believe narcissism and empaths, that is a spiritual issue, because narcissists have God complex and they need faithful worshippers, which many of my clients have been. So the ego of the narcissist, we know it's a massive ego. It needs to be fed. Often the issue roots right back down to childhood, very difficult childhoods, just as the same as highly empathic people. Highly empathic people may well have had their own distress in childhood, but they have to check their own ego. Often their ego is about perpetually helping. And often highly empathic people can help without invitation. That's not helpful to you. Why is your ego built upon perpetual self-sacrifice? How does that feed you? As a therapist, I have to be mindful of my own ego. One of the things you said at the beginning is, it's good to help people. I think I just show people how they screwed. I hold up the mirror, right? I'm showing you how you screw yourself over. Now, you got choices about what you do moving forward. Often the biggest challenge to the choices people make is their ego. We don't want it to look bad. You put it on the gram, didn't ya? Got 10 likes from your mates because that's the man of your life now and things have gone belly up. Now your egos are into play. So you're going to fight to keep the relationship. Cheryl Cole, we're going to fight for this love. Sister, if you got to fight that hard.
Love it. So how do you work with people to get them around that ego then? How does that work?
I don't get them around it. I show them. I show them when there is resistance. It's often when the resistance shows up, that's where the ego is into play. So saying no, asking for help, being vulnerable, you'll often find the ego at interplay there, or trying things new. Like that can have a massive impact on people because they don't want to look stupid. Perfectionists are also a beautiful, give you beautiful insight to the ego. Everything, all the ducks have to be lined up in a row. And so if you can help people, a lot of people when they come into therapy, they live in their heads. They're trying to work everything out with their tiny mind. If they're spiritual, if they've got a spiritual composite, I say, let go, let God. But even on the phone, if someone phones up, I can tell because they're like, well, where will I be at the end of 10 sessions? I don't fucking know. I don't know where you'll be. I trust the process. So there's often this need to know, wanting it like step by step. That's often your ego. Can you surrender? Trust the process. Trust the process. You do not have the answers to everything. And in the West, we live in our heads. We're disconnected from our body. And there's so much information, your intuition, feelings. Like if you look at your phone, someone's on there and you roll your eyes. This is clearly a person who's not great for your greatness. But we ignore these things. We override them. And then we wonder how we end up depressed. And your head's always trying to work it out, and I get it. But there is, if you can learn to trust the process, know that you're doing good things, sowing, good things will come, but you have to get out of your own way. I think ego results in us getting in our own way.
And impatience as well, because you want it done yesterday. I certainly
Absolutely.
do. All the time.
Absolutely. And we live in a culture that promotes that. Thought about having a McDonald's, next thing you know, ding dong, they're at your door. Remember, you and I used to watch Dallas. You have to wait 1 week for a next episode on a Wednesday. Not now.
Not now. You can literally binge it. There's even, I was on Netflix last night and they've even got a binge-worthy category. because they're even promoting it. We want you to sit here for 10 hours, literally, on repeat.
And isn't it interesting, right? Binge was associated with binge eating, which isn't good, right? Binge eating is not good. But they want you to binge watch. So they promote it. They promote it, put it on the billboard, binge watch worthy. So there you are, sitting there, consuming and eating, usually the two go hand in hand, putting on weight, getting depressed and baffled why. Get off the television, because that was someone's dream. Whatever you're consuming was someone's dream that they had to sacrifice to create. What about your dream? You're consuming someone's dream. Where's your dreams? Where's your aspirations?
Yeah. I mean, mic drop. Exactly that. Who is living your dream, and that's how do you get to live your dream?
If you're consuming, if you're binge watching.
Yeah.
I go out to places, parties, and I hear people talking about, conversation is, what are you watching on Netflix? I'm like, bloody hell. I'm thinking, they took mine off the telly the other day because I was using my kids' one. I went to go and watch Black Mirror because the client told me to watch it. There's no Netflix no more. It's gone. That's fine. Get up, go and do something else. Read a book. Listen to a podcast, Diary of a CEO, something to just keep my brain. You know, you've got to think about what you consume. A lot of people are stuck listening to the news, gripped by fear.
Gripped by fear, and it's like what you feeding yourself, what you watering your garden with. You know, what are you telling your mind when you're filling it with that? Because like, there's nothing ever positive happens on the news, right?
Nothing, and it's a form of mind control. Take back your mind. It's the greatest thing you own. The greatest thing you own is in between your earlobes, not your Louis Vuitton belt and sliders.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. So what do you do to cultivate your mind? You know, what's a day in the life of Keeley that helps you do that?
Well, yesterday, any drive which is over 45 minutes, I think, what can I listen to? So I've been listening to Diary of a CEO, just listened to Neil deGrasse. Is it deGrasse? The scientist, the professor. So, and I literally I enjoy long drives. Like, sometimes I think I've become a nerd.
But it's good. It's a good place to be, right?
I know. Sometimes I do try and, like, if I'm back where my mum comes from, and because I can get the pirate radio stations, right? And I do like to listen to them, but once I start to move out of, like, going back home, they fade. And if they fade, I just click on a podcast. I just find it forever fascinating because I'm supporting people, and listen, as my tutor says, the clients won't go where the therapist hasn't gone. And I dedicate my life to this. It's just joy. I just enjoy what I do. So, you know, it would be lovely to have a partner, someone to share my life with. But obviously, you know, I'm in relationships every day and I'm very clear, you know, and if you're not up to grade, everything's energy. I'm not here to change anyone. And so, you know, that shift's been pretty tricky. I'm from Northwest London. A lot of the guys from there, still love them, but we're in different lanes, and I can't make a sacrifice. I'm not going to settle, I'm afraid. So at the moment, it just means, you know, I throw myself into my passion. At times it can feel lonely. You can feel like your friends are hitting certain milestones. There's 2 incomes, but you know what? I don't have any regrets.
That's the way to live life with no regrets. Yeah.
You never know. He's out there somewhere.
Yeah, no, and he will be for sure. And just keep doing what you're doing. Like, it will come. It's always going to come good. I love your energy and your positivity.
I love it. You know, every time I get rid of someone, or I was trying really hard and I thought this one was the one, and I've let go, and then I met someone else, thought that one. And you know what? It's just a beautiful journey. If you can get your ego out the way. Heartbreak is really egoic. How could they do this to me? I cared so much. You've got to be careful with heartbreak. You know, what can I do differently? How can I shake this energy off? Because if not, it can consume you. And then expand yourself. Try something different. Expose yourself to be an idiot doing something. Get out of your own way. Learn to laugh at yourself. I always know when I've healed, when I can laugh at myself.
Yeah, I love that. So what do you do? Because this is a really interesting thing to ask, because I go through states where I'm super, super positive, and then I'll have times when I'm really negative. And I feel like my mindset's shifting into a negative place, and then I have to catch myself to get myself back into a positive place. What do you do to change your state, to get yourself into that position, to be able to change state and lift a negative trajectory into a positive one?
Well, I think firstly, the challenge you have with labeling things negative and positive is often unhelpful. I tell my clients this all the time. It is what it is. If you're in this season, a season of low mood, if things are difficult, it is what it is. What's going on? What's gone wrong? Let's get curious about what's happened in your life. For example, my last low season, a relationship that I hoped would have been the one, failed. And that was really difficult, and I felt incredibly sorry for myself. But I had to check myself. What was my aspirations? What were my hopes for that relationship? And what was I maybe superimposing onto the person? Well, I hoped that this would happen. I hoped that that would happen. I hope maybe I'd move to another country. So what do I need to do? Well, maybe I need to go to America then and stay there for a couple of months. How can I empower myself? And we all have those seasons. They are an actual part of life. So if I know I'm heading up for a low, usually it's because of an intimate relationship. Let's be frank about it. Firstly, once I know, I get my therapist back involved. I'm unapologetic about getting myself psychological support. And sometimes with therapy, in the moment, you feel like you just paid a load of money, left there, you're still fucking crying. Or did you brought up more stuff about your mum and dad and why you're settling for crumbs, right? And then the gift of therapy is it kicks in when you least expect it. Like the other day I was driving, right? And I just, when you just feel good. And I thought that was that. And I knew I was over it. And for many of us, we kind of want to know, like, when am I going to get over it? I can't tell you when, but if you keep sowing into yourself. So what did I do? I booked a 3-month holiday away, worked while I was away, pushed all my clients online, exposed myself to difference, did something I'd always wanted to do. And that helped to shift the energy. For many of us, what we do is we end up in our rooms, don't want to get out of bed, duvet, daybun, box set binge watching, ordering from Uber Eats, and it then starts to consume you. Sometimes you have to defy the self, defy that part of you. That's not always easy. It's not always easy, but I'm just thinking about a podcast I was listening to, which is about the chimp brain, right? You either let your chimp brain control you or the human brain control you. That's the book, The Chimp Paradox. Yeah, so sometime, even this morning, I should have been at the gym at 6:30. Every morning I'm supposed to be there at 6:30. It was 7:30 when I got there, but the chimp was in control at 6:30. And then it just got to a point, I was like, get up, man. How you going to get flat belly for the summer body key? Come on. Ain't going to happen on your back, girl. You got to have hacks. You got to have hacks because the system is serious out there. And if you're not careful, you're going to be, so many people are miserable. And the rhetoric that we're being fed about mental health it's not the false picture. They're going to keep promoting mental health, but they don't put on any more services. Actually, they diminish the services for people. If we're talking about mental health, then actually what we need to really be talking about is your potential. What about your potential? Now, I'm not saying people who fulfilled their potential, they haven't had their own issues, but that is such a buffer. How can you empower yourself? Often depressed people, they feel disempowered. So how can you empower yourself? Authenticity is also key to your potential. Some of us want a biker jacket, but you can't buy a biker jacket because, people like me don't wear biker jackets because I'm from the ends and I got to wear. Buy the fucking biker jacket. Give yourself a chance. Let this part of you out. A lot of my clients come in, they're wearing black. You can't put a little colour in the wardrobe, sister. I'll have the conversation. You know what I'm saying? I've had conversation about a shoe. I said to one of my clients, I said, sister, I can't help but see this hole in your shoe. I see the hole in your shoe. I felt very uncomfortable, but I had to say it. And we had sometimes you see when you risk in therapy, it can be such a profound thing. And we had a profound conversation. She wouldn't allow herself to go in certain shops. She didn't think she was good enough. Next week, she came up with a bling pair of Guess boots, man. Boom. So a lot of us don't actually really look after ourselves. Be careful what's going out of your bank account. Pay attention to what you're paying for. A lot of people getting caught up. Okay, I can't afford therapy. Cool, you can't afford it. Well, what apps do you have on your phone? Oh, Boohoo. Oh, really, Boohoo? Yeah, Amazon.com. You came in your mind, you booked it, packed it. It's not great for you. Klarna's another one stressing people out. You keep buying things on these free payment plans, but you keep doing that, you'll have no money left. So you got to pay attention to yourself.
Yeah, because they're just trying to put a plaster over the feelings that they're doing rather than dealing with it, right? Because that quick fix of something bought is just putting a plaster on it, but they're not actually dealing with, as you say, their potential and what they can do.
And then because you've now got the fancy car on tick, you've got all your fancy clothes from Klarna, right? The things that you want to do, you don't have the disposable income to do because you're now trapped. So what let's have a look, because finance comes up in therapy. Let's have a little look. I'm not a finance expert, but let's have a look at little things that you're doing. What might you be able to do things differently? And I also refer people on to a special financial educator that I also work with to help people to begin to understand finance, because we weren't often educated about these things. One of my clients now, he was made redundant from his 25-year-old job, depressed. I said, have you thought about going back to uni? No, I can't go. Like, go and do an access course. Now he's in his second year, loving it. Found out he's been dyslexic. Now his whole life makes sense in terms of why education was such a chore. He's just about to go and pick up a computer because it's funded by the university. He's absolutely loving it. Beautiful to see. And he's taken the student loan. I'm like, well, take the loan. You're 60 odd. By the time they want it, if you don't earn a certain amount over us, bruv, they ain't getting that, man. Go and live your best life. Come on, man. We're in the West. We're in the West. Take advantage.
Yeah, love it, absolutely love it. And you know, like thinking about this, like one of the reasons why I love this podcast is because I get so much from it as well. And I was just thinking about, like, I'm really burnt out at the moment. I'm going on holiday next week and I really need it, but I've just had a day cancelled tomorrow, and my first thought was, do you know what, like, all I need is just a day in, like, I just need a couple of hours in bed in the morning. Like, I'm so high energy, all my friends say I'm so high energy, and I'm listening to you going, do you know what, that morning in bed tomorrow morning, I'm just going to get out and go and do something. Like, that's not going to be good for me to sit in bed for a couple of hours. Even though I think it is, I think that's going to be where I'm going to relax. I'm not going to relax. I'm going to be thinking about everything else. And selfishly, when I ask questions in this podcast, I get some great answers that instantly click. And that landed with me. I was just like, yes, Keeley, I'm going to go out and do something completely different tomorrow. Keep the energy high, but still be able to relax away from my laptop and my phone and everything else that stresses me out. Another thing I was thinking of is so I think some of the most difficult things that happen in people's life is what creates and molds them to be the absolute lighthouse that they are. And I can see that in your life. Like, you've had this really tough situation and now you're this massive lighthouse, and I can see that along the journey you've had these mentors that have come into your life, and I'm sure I've known you for a short amount of time. It's because they've met you and gone, this energy, this vision, like where this person's going, like I'm going to help them along that way. And I think back about my situation. I had a massive drug problem from the early 20s, and it stayed with me, but all I was doing all the time was seeing therapists and going and seeing counsellors. And I think there's this, like, I talk to lots of people now, and I always say to my wife, why did you stay with me for so long when I had this drug problem? She's like, because you're always trying to get help. Like, you're always going to go and see different counsellors, which is amazing. And I look back, and to me, that it felt the right thing to do all the time. But then I meet people all the time in life who are struggling from an addiction, a difficult relationship, money problems, depression, whatever it is. And then I say to them, look, you should go and speak to someone, and instantly brick wall comes up. And there's so much, like, I know we are dwindling budgets for help, but still in this country, you can still go and get advice and help from people. Yes, it's a lot shorter now. But why do you think it is that so many people have this brick wall to getting help and asking for help?
Well, typically, statistically, white males are really poor at asking for help. That was even a part of the program in the prison I worked with. Asking for help, the cognitive behavioural programs, asking for help was an actual module because men statistically are particularly poor at asking for help. And that links to vulnerability, I believe. Not comfortable being vulnerable and the kind of stereotypes of what it means to be a man. So you've got all of those factors. I think it's different with females. I think we're much more open to looking within ourselves. I think also what I think sometimes people think we're going to go right in the archives and pull up all kinds of traumas. And the reality is, what you avoid, it don't go nowhere. It deals with you anyway. It deals with you in the subconscious. It deals with you in your behavior. It deals with you in your habits. It deals with you in potentially low expectations. It is dealing with you. When you confront it, that's a conscious choice. And whilst that will be uncomfortable initially, things reconfigure. So I think people are really fearful about what's in the closet. That's why people love a coach. This is where I am. This is where I want to be. Oh, that's fine. But when your self-sabotage kicks in, if you've got a good coach, hopefully they can support you. But self-sabotage often lays in the unconscious. And if they can't rummage around in there, if they can't support you with your unconscious, it will have an impact. So I think one of the challenges is avoidance. And, the capitalist system encourages us to keep buying stuff to make ourselves feel better. L'Oreal, you're worth it. So people are often under the illusion. I meet many a person who got the Range Rover, the Tesla, the house, the job, but they're miserable. Why? Because your mum never let you play the banjo. Go and play the banjo then, innit? Go and do banjo lessons. Be that grown person who's 42. Sit there and learn to play the banjo, because that was always your dream. That part of you never is gone. So I think there's, I mean, it's getting better because of, you know, America's promoting, you know, everybody's got a therapist. I think things are shifting. What I also see in the therapy room is I think a lot of men are also using their employee assistance programs. So if you've got a particular type of job, you may get Bupa insurance, AXA, Aviva insurance. So a lot of those corporate jobs can provide that. And throughout COVID, even now, I'm seeing a lot more people, especially men, who are choosing to use those services because they're more curious. They're a bit curious about themselves. They're all curious about, hold on, how come I drink so much? Or, you know, how come I keep having to have a sniff on a Friday night and it's now a Sunday night, Saturday night? I'm getting a bit curious about that. So that's always a blessing, that people are capitalizing on their insurance, their benefits from work to support them.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you people do get that support. We do it with our tree surgeons. They've all got access to a free mental health line and therapy if they need it. But it's just trying to get them to get to that point. And, you know, like, just thinking when you're talking then, it's like me getting therapy right now. Like, as a boy, I wanted to be a water sports instructor. I've never done that. I'm going to go and do that. Like, I'm thinking now, like, I need to go and do that. I got laughed down by family going, what, you want to go and do that? That's not a job. That's not a real thing.
Exactly. So there's that part of you's never gone.
Yeah, it's not. It's still there. I can feel it. I can definitely feel it. And I feel very fortunate, like, that for me as a man, I go to vulnerability straight away. It's why I do this podcast. I talk about everything that's happened in my life from young to old. But I think that's, like, you're right. Like, when I asked that question, I wasn't expecting to get that answer. And what's very close to my heart is male suicide in this country is like one of the biggest killers. And I think you're right, like, that I notice it with women, and don't get me wrong, I know women have mental health challenges and I'm not taking that away, but like, women tend to be able to talk more openly. Like, you go and meet up with your girls and you go and talk, like, we go and meet up with our mates down the pub and it's like, right, how's your week? Yeah, shit, oh, come on then, let's get on it, let's have a few beers, let's get a bag in, let's, like, you know, don't worry about that, let's just get high and everything will be all right. And then 12 o'clock the next day, when you can't sleep and you're in your own room, your mates aren't there then, it's just yourself and your thoughts, and you've got to try and decipher all that when you're feeling ropey. And when I ask that question, because I know there'll be people listening to this podcast that will be on in that zone potentially of wanting to get help, but they're not quite sure where to go. So that answer was absolutely bang on. So thank you for that, Keeley. It really means a lot, and it's helped me. And I think if we can help drop the bar of vulnerability, and we have more people like you that are absolute lighthouses who are showing people the way and saying, okay, like, this is where I've been, this is where I've gone, and now I want to help people. I want to try and find the potential in people. Then, you know, the world genuinely is going to be a better place with those lighthouses like you in it.
I just want them to see the potential in themselves, and that your depression makes sense. Your depression will make sense when you realise you haven't said yes to the part of you that wants to be a swimming instructor or go and try, you know, something different. Once you begin to get to the root cause, the abandoned dreams, and then it's our responsibility to then pursue that. And I think men, I think the thing about vulnerability is about inadequacy, and then you're looking at shame, and shame is visceral. Shame is a body-based reaction. And it's all of those things that, you know, I'm working with a lovely gentleman at the moment, not for therapy. He don't like therapists. He don't like talking to those people. But because I'm linguistically diverse, I can adapt my language to support him. There's no point me, you know, speaking extra, the extended vocab. It's not going to work. But I'm from the grassroots. So if we have to talk, that's fine. I can talk like that so that we connect. So it circumnavigates the resistance. And I guess that's about me as a therapist and my history, which means I'm very adapt. That's where what was a disadvantage has become advantageous, because it means that I can assist and adapt to different people to really get to the heart of the matter. And I think when you find a therapist and it's a great match, yes, miracles occur.
Yeah, and I absolutely love that, because you're going to a language place that suits that gentleman. And I think I love your take on it, because it's not a one size fits all. It's not like you've got a big luminous sign saying, I help people release their potential, because that's not going to sing to everybody, is it? 'Cause someone's going to walk past that and go, I don't fucking need that. I'm depressed. I don't even know what my potential is. So then bringing it down to a language to be able to draw people in, to be able to then help them, like, I think that's genius. Like, that's amazing.
Well, you're circumnavigating the kind of traditional stiff, I'm the analyst, I know what's best. Let's have a chat. Come on, let's have a chat. What's going on? And people, once they feel that you're safe, there's no judgment, it just unfurls in really beautiful ways. Really are. Just reminded me of a guy I'm working with on Saturday. Beautiful ways. We discovered after about session 3, I think he's autistic, and we're at session 15 now. He's gone. He's had his assessment. It's, he came to me for narcissism, but there was just the way that he was engaging with me that I just felt there was this missing link, because obviously that has an impact on emotion. A lot of people get autistic people confused with narcissists. The reason he doesn't connect emotionally he's not narcissistic. He's wired differently. That's neurodiversity. And that for me it's such a precious moment to watch someone come out of their skin and make the stuff make sense to them. They make sense to themselves. And, he started art classes now. I have no idea where it will take him. It's just wonderful to see. People think it's all doom and gloom. It's not.
No, it's not. Finding out who you are. Like, I've been in the self-development world for a while, and I go to all these different shows and events and things, and I'm around a lot of positive therapist people. And I was a terrible child, and people keep saying to me, "Are you sure you don't have ADHD, Henry?" And I was like, "Well, I was never diagnosed with it, but I don't know whether I have or not." But I'm then now looking into ADHD and going, "Oh, okay. So the reason why I stand up every 15 minutes, every time I do that, this is why." And understanding that then it makes me realise why I do certain things, and I'm not conforming the same way everyone else conforms.
My therapist thinks I've got it. Yeah, my therapist said, "I think you've got it," and I thought, "All right, cool. It don't bother me. What am I going to do about it?" It makes sense in terms of why I might need to, while I'll have 20 windows open on the laptop and can never complete one task. So now she's mentioned an app that I use. You put the timer on for 30 minutes. 30 minutes, you just do one task. You don't deviate. Small hacks.
Yeah, love that. And once you understand your set self, then you can do these things, right? So absolutely amazing. So we're just coming towards the end of the show, Keeley. I'd love it to carry on going, but
But we got lives.
We've got lives. We have. One question: what does fail forward mean to you?
Fail forward. There is no fail. There is only feedback.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Absolutely love that. What a way to end. So thank you so much, Keeley, for coming on. If people want to get hold of you to help release their potential, being in a sticky relationship, whatever reason why they want to come to you, how can they get hold of you best?
keyforchange.com.
Amazing, love that, and we'll put this all in the group notes. So thank you so much for coming on to the Fail Forward podcast today, Keeley. You've been amazing. I've been on a journey. I've got some work to do when I come away from this.
Swimming instructor. Next time I see you, Henry, I want your badge.
Yes, yeah, exactly that. So thanks so much for coming on. If you've loved this episode like I have, please like, share, and subscribe to the episode. Thanks, Keeley, for coming on board.
Bye.